Well, to answer some of those sorts of questions is Aylin Webb. Aylin is a psychologist based in Shenfield. Morning, Aylin.
Good morning, Sonia. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So there's been loads of different tactics over the years. We're talking about a scarecrow in high vis this morning, but there's
Yes,
been other similar things and flashing signs. I mean, what this is designed to do what? To just give us that make us think twice moment?
well, it's really mostly designed to distract you from that autopilot mode. You know, sometimes, especially with familiar roads, you get in the car and you get to your destination, but you have been in autopilot and you don't know how you got there. That is to distract actually that autopilot mode. And there is research about what different things can be done as well. For example, they have been applying some new things, such as painting the road to different colors, like red, putting some trees around, and actually taking off the white lines, where people then start feeling a bit unsafe. It's out of the usual than what they are used to. So it's really more about making people, oh, something's different here. And you take off your foot off the pedal straight away, just to make sure that you're safe. But yeah, it's a big problem, because I was thinking about you this morning as I was walking the dog on our residential road, and it's a 20, and people were flying through, clearly flying through. And your guest earlier has mentioned that those who were speeding through their village were actually residents of the nearby villages. That's also another psychological thing that people admit, even though really they're against, it's really bad, people shouldn't be speeding, they can also end up speeding, but don't put those two together.
Yeah, and does this, I think it's really interesting. And you mentioned about, the roads being painted differently. I think I've seen some examples of that. Does that work then? Is it as simple as taking people away from that autopilot moment, perhaps making people feel a bit nervous, and it will have the desired effect? Then it does work.
It has been working in Holland. They have tried it in Holland. So they are now starting to apply that in certain areas. I think Wales is going to test this out as well. So far it's a new idea. It stops, but then again, after a while, if you get used to, again, it's all about habits. It's all about becoming familiar with the surroundings. So once we get used to that idea, we might start speeding again. So I think that there are a scarecrow, I think, is really lovely. But for people who would be driving there for months and months and years, scarecrow will also become just familiar, and they'll know it's there.
So
unless you might move it around.
Yeah, well, maybe. So it kind of only works really if it sort of comes at you by surprise. Once you get used to it, I suppose it's the same with everything, isn't it? Once you get used to it, it doesn't have the same impact. Do you think it's because does our mindset change when we're behind the wheel? Because we often talk about this in terms of being impatient, aggressive with road rage, and also perhaps taking more risks because cars are quite advanced. They're very comfortable. You kind of feel like you're safe, don't you? Is there an element of that psychology going on when you're behind the wheel?
Well, what there is that, look at the commercials. It's all about, when you look at the cars, the commercials, they're like, oh, look at that speed, it can speed so well. So there is some social, cultural psychology there as well. That's one thing. The second thing is, if you see other people speeding, you tend to speed as well.
Very interesting, isn't it, how we work? Aylin, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. Aylin Webb there, who's a psychologist based in Shenfield, talking really about the psychology behind some of this sort of stuff. Maybe you've got something quite creative or quirky in your village in Essex, aimed at trying to grab attention and ultimately trying to slow down drivers. What have you